5-day faculty development program by Teaching Learning Center, IIT Chennai, hosted by the IQAC Sri Shankara College, Kaladi. While expressing our profound gratitude to the Kerala State Higher Education Council for supporting this program, I cordially welcome all the resource persons of IIT Chennai, including Professor Sripad Karmalkar and Professor Idamana Prasad sir, who has joined us today.
Dr.
We
Vijayan
have
also.
Dr. Vijayan is also here with us. Dr. Sabu Thomas, Honorable Vice Chancellor, MG University, has offered his felicitations. Over to Dr. Sabu Thomas, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Mahatma Gandhi University.
I am extremely happy that Sri Shankara College, Kaladi, is organizing a 5-day online activity on how can teachers make a difference. My best wishes for this program. തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും കോളേജുകളെയും യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയൊക്കെ അളക്കുന്ന അളവുകൾ എന്ന് പറയുന്നത് ടീച്ചിങ് ലേണിംഗ് ഇവാലുവേഷനുള്ള പുതിയ ആശയങ്ങൾ, റിസർച്ചിലുള്ള അതുപോലെ തന്നെ റിസർച്ച് ഫൈൻഡിങ്സ് എങ്ങനെ സൊസൈറ്റിയിലെത്തി, ഈ 2-3 കമ്പോണന്റ് വെച്ചാണ് യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റികളിൽ കോളേജുകളിൽ നടത്തുന്നത്. അപ്പോൾ ടീച്ചിങ് ലേണിംഗ് ഇവാലുവേഷനിലേക്ക് കടക്കുമ്പോൾ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഫാക്കൽറ്റി ഷുഡ് ബിക്കം എൻ ഐഡിയൽ ടീച്ചർ, ആൻ ഇഫക്റ്റീവ് ടീച്ചർ. നല്ലവണ്ണം ക്ലാസ് എടുക്കുക, നല്ലവണ്ണം പഠിപ്പിക്കുക, സ്റ്റുഡൻസുമായിട്ട് ഇൻട്രാക്ട് ചെയ്യുക, ഒരു പരിധി വരെ ഓൺലൈൻ പ്ലാറ്റ്ഫോം ഉപയോഗിക്കുക. അങ്ങനെ നല്ലൊരു ഇഫക്റ്റീവ് ടീച്ചറായിട്ട്, അതുപോലെ തന്നെ നല്ല നല്ല ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ സെറ്റ് ചെയ്യുക. അങ്ങനെ ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻ സെറ്റ് ചെയ്തിട്ട് കുട്ടികളുടെ കഴിവുകൾ അളക്കുക. അങ്ങനെ ചെയ്തു കഴിഞ്ഞാൽ ടീച്ചർ ബിക്കം എക്സ്ട്രീംലി ഇഫക്റ്റീവ്. അപ്പോൾ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു 5-day FDP കൊണ്ട് ധാരാളം ടീച്ചേഴ്സിനെ ഇഫക്റ്റീവ് ടീച്ചേഴ്സാക്കി മാറ്റുവാൻ സാധിക്കുമെന്ന് ഞാൻ കരുതുകയാണ്. അതുപോലെ തന്നെ ഈ വർക്ക്ഷോപ്പിൽ ടീച്ചേഴ്സിന് how to become a very good researcher, അവർക്ക് എങ്ങനെ നല്ലൊരു റിസർച്ച് പ്രോജക്റ്റ് കൊടുക്കാം, എങ്ങനെ നല്ലൊരു റിസർച്ച് പേപ്പർ എഴുതാം, ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള ട്രെയിനിങ്ങുകളും കൊടുത്തിരിക്കും. പിന്നെ അവസാനമായി പറയേണ്ടത്, കോളേജും യൂണിവേഴ്സിറ്റിയും ജനറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന നോളജ് സൊസൈറ്റിക്ക് അതാണ് എക്സെപ്ഷൻ. ഈ മേഖലയിൽ ടീച്ചേഴ്സിന് വലിയ റോളുണ്ട്. അതുകൊണ്ട് ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളെല്ലാം ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുമെന്ന് ഞാൻ പ്രതീക്ഷിക്കുകയാണ്. ഈ കോഴ്സിന് എൻ്റെ എല്ലാ ബെസ്റ്റ് വിഷസും നേരിടും.
We also have our principal, Dr. A. Suresh, with us to offer felicitations. സാറേ സംസാരിക്കും, സാറേ സമയമായി സംസാരിക്കും.
ഹലോ ഹലോ
ഹലോ സംസാരിച്ചോ?
ഹലോ, കേൾക്കാവോ ടീച്ചറെ?
കേൾക്കാം.
Good morning everyone. Welcome to the faculty development program conducted by IQAC of Sri Shankara College, Kaladi. I wish the program all success and I hope that all the participants will have a good learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, good morning, all of you. I am Dr. Manju, coordinator of this program. I hope you can hear me. On behalf of IQAC, I thank all the participants for accepting the invitation and for being here today. The IQAC has been looking forward to conduct this program since long, and due to obvious reasons, we have converted it into an online mode.
Sorry, I think not
Manju,
audible.
unmute.
Manju, unmute.
Please unmute.
Yes. So shall I
Okay.
start from beginning?
Yes, please start from beginning.
So good morning, all of you. I am Dr. Manju, coordinator of this program. On behalf of IQAC, I thank all of you present here, including the participants who have accepted our invitation and here. The IQAC has been looking forward to conduct this program since long, and due to the obvious reason of pandemic, we have converted it to online mode. So let's start the sessions now. Let me invite Professor Sripath Karmalkar, Head of Teaching Learning Center, IIT Madras. And he's a professor of Electrical Engineering Department at IIT Madras. And above all, a very well-known teacher also. So, sir, the stage is yours. We are looking forward to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you, Manju. And first, I want to check whether I am audible.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
You're audible, sir.
Sir, you are muted. You are muted, sir.
Is this better?
Yeah.
Or previous
Yes.
one was?
This is better,
Previous
sir.
one was louder.
Which one? Previous one was louder?
But did you change the volume control in between? Okay, anyway.
No.
Both are okay. Both are.
Okay, I removed it. Now is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
It's okay.
Okay, fine. Because I am more comfortable like this.
Yes. Fine. You're also comfortable.
Okay. So let me begin. And let me first now, I should share.
Yeah. Have you switched on your video? We see a static
Sorry?
photo. Video.
Pardon?
We are seeing a static photo. Is your video on?
Yeah, my
He
video.
is sharing. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Now sharing. Correct.
Yes.
So
Yes. Now I can see. I can also see the presentation.
so shall we go ahead now?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Okay. So welcome you all to this online session. For me, this is the first online teaching learning FDP that I'm doing. As you can see from this slide, there are 4 resource persons: myself, Professor Edmana Prasad from Chemistry Department, Professor Vijayan from Physics Department, and then we have Richa Verma, who was our colleague until a month ago in Teaching Learning Center, but has joined HTIC, IITM Research Park. So 4 of us will be conducting this session, this particular FDP. Now let me start on a lighter note. Usually I look like this, but what you are seeing now is the effect of lockdown. And this I just thought, apart from being in a lighter vein, some other time if we meet, then you should be able to recognize me. So I thought I will start on this note. How and how much difference can a teacher make? That is the first session of our FDP. Now at this point, let me pause for a minute and ask what are their expectations from this particular session? How and how much difference can a teacher make? What do you think you want to, what is your expectation from this session? Let me just pause for a while. The reason is as I have said, our sessions are interactive. They are not lecture based. Okay, so periodically we will pause and we will have an interaction. So let me start with an interaction that will also set things properly for the coming session, you know, how we should interact. Yes, anyone, can you please tell what are you expecting from this session?
Participants, please unmute yourself and interact.
I can probably ask if how do I see the list of participants?
By clicking on the participants on the control bar on below your slide.
I don't see the control bar.
Move the cursor on the screen, you will see the control bar. Then press people.
Okay, okay.
Then you
Okay.
see
I have presenting, and then stop presenting is there. Should I have to stop presenting and then only look for participants, or?
Yeah, temporarily. Yes. Then we can see your face in full screen probably.
Sorry?
I think if you stop presenting, we may be able to see your face on full screen.
Okay, now I have.
You can try that.
Now I have removed my presentation. Sorry?
What you want to see? You have already seen the list, no? Participants list.
No.
Can you see the participants list now?
No. How do I see that? That is what?
Go to that bar and click on people.
That is
Just
what,
move the
unfortunately.
cursor. Move the cursor on the screen. You will see the black bar.
I know. That is what I'm trying.
There is an icon, people icon.
I know. I am not able to see that icon for some reason.
Do you see the black bar?
See, I have a black this thing. What is it? Yeah, I'm able to see.
There is a camera, microphone, start presentation, all those that bar.
Microphone, mute, unmute, and all that is there.
Yeah. And at the end there is a, two people's picture.
Unfortunately, that is not coming for me. That is what I'm saying.
Do you see the hand picture and the message picture?
No.
Sir, I hope you have to exit from the presentation.
Wait. Now something has come. Let me try.
That people.
Yes, something has come with the red dot.
Click on that people icon.
No, it has gone back.
Sir, I hope you have to exit from the presentation view in order to get the participants.
Oh, okay. I am just escape. Let me do that.
Now we'll give a bar.
Stop presentation. In the bar itself, the black bar, control bar itself, there is a stop presentation mode.
Okay. Yeah, that I'm getting. I'm getting that.
Yeah, and next to it, you will also see the people's bar. Next a few icons later.
Stop presentation I have done. Now I can see this.
Do you see people on the bar?
People. I can see people on the bar.
Yeah.
Yes.
Just click that. Then you will see on the
I'm
panel.
able to see the list. Okay.
And call some name. Call some name.
Sure. I will.
It should be red in color, red button.
Correct. So let me call Anumol. Anumol.
Is she here?
Is Anumol here? Okay. What about Jessita? Jessita? Oh, so Jessita.
Some people whose photos you can see on the screen in the panel.
That is true. I am able to see Dr. Shrikala. Dr. Shrikala. Can you please introduce yourself and tell us?
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me, sir?
Sure, I can hear you clearly. So I just want to know how much difference can a
Hello.
teacher make? What is your expectation this session?
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can hear you. Please tell us your background. I mean, you are teaching, what is your discipline, and then you can.
Now it's a time of changing from the classroom class to online teaching. And we are much hesitated on this. And actually, we want to study more effective will be the online classes. And
Okay, I'm able to see Dr. Girish. Couple of words from you. Can you please unmute yourself? You are not audible.
സൂപ്പർ അല്ലേ? ചേച്ചിയോട് ചോദിച്ചാൽ എങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടെന്ന്. എങ്ങനെ ഉണ്ടെന്ന് ഓരോ സമയത്തും മുടി മാറിക്കൊണ്ട് വരും.
Some crosstalk.
പെയിന്റ് പറ്റിയോ?
Other people can switch off the mic. There is a crosstalk.
അറിയില്ല, നമുക്കത് പിന്നെ ചെയ്യാം.
Sir, you are unmute. Please unmute, sir. Herbal, sir. Please unmute.
How did I get? Okay, yeah. How did I get muted accidentally? I don't know how I got muted. I didn't try to mute myself. Okay, Dr. Girish, am I audible?
Audible. You are audible, sir.
Yeah. I want to hear from Dr. Girish. Okay, so I think we need to just set this right. Let me try one more person. Dr. Gauri Antarjanam. Can you just respond? Okay, if not, Dr. Anisha, PA. I just thought I will get one response like this and then I will continue so that I know, we are in communication.
Hello, sir.
You may ask for volunteers.
Hello, sir.
Yes.
Hello, sir. Sir, this is Shruti Francis. Hello,
yeah,
sir.
Yeah, please go ahead. Please tell me your name.
Shruti Francis. Shruti.
Okay.
Sir, I am from St. Xavier's College for Women, Alua.
Okay.
And I am attending this session because now we are in the sector, there is a lot more changes due to coronavirus and this lockdown situation. And the role of teachers is now changing. The paradigm shift is happening. So I just want to be part of this FDP, just to know more about how I can change myself, how I can mold myself to the new changing situation of higher education sector. Is it clear, sir?
Yeah. Okay. I get it. Just
confirmation വന്നതല്ലല്ലോ മിസ്സിനെ ഒന്നാണോ?
okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Although I could not see you, but I heard you clearly. Yes. Okay. Fine. Finally,
yeah, I'm Shruti. Shruti, sir. I just asked the question. I raised my hand.
You raised your hand. So how do I see Dr. Manju? How do I see Shruti? If I want to see, how do I am not able to see her.
No, she has actually raised the hand, not the button.
Sir.
No, she has actually reached.
Now she has come. Oh no, she came. Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
No, I'm trying to understand this interaction, because then I can, proceed further. Unless I can see and hear both, this is difficult. Okay, fine. Let me just try one more person, and then I will. Jitesh Krishnan. Jitesh Krishnan, I'm able to see a participant. Jitesh Krishnan, can you please respond to me?
Hello. Hello, sir. Hello.
Yes, hello. I'm able to hear you. Jitesh Krishnan, I'm able to see you. Okay.
Sir, myself, Dr. Jitesh Krishnan, Assistant Professor, Department of Botany, NSS College, Pandala.
Department of?
I am Botany, NSS College, Pandala.
Okay, right.
I'm in the outdoor since due to electricity problem, I am in the outdoor, sir.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Let me proceed further with our session. Okay, I have had some interaction.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. So I will periodically be asking Dr. Manju. The slide is visible.
Not yet, sir. It may take a few seconds. You just share the screen.
You have to share the screen.
I know. Yes, I'm doing that. Yes.
Okay. Now
It's clear.
We can see your slide.
Okay. So I can proceed further?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So how much difference can a teacher make? Let's try to answer this question. One of the Indian national policies on education wrote this particular quotation on its very first page. No nation can rise above the level of its teachers. This means people accord a lot of importance to teachers. Let's try to examine this particular statement critically. Is it some idealistic statement, or it has real practical value? Now, typically, a teacher would be teaching, let us say, a class of 50. I'm taking an average number every semester. That means in a year, the teacher will come across about 100 students. Assuming a career span of 20 years, this means a total of 2,000 students. Now, each course, if we assume about 40 sessions or lectures, each of which is about 50 minutes duration. So a teacher on average is able to come across 2,000 students in their formative stage of life, where they are very impressionable. They are of impressionable age. So a teacher is coming in contact with 2,000 students of impressionable age, and with each such student, the teacher is spending about 40 hours. Okay. So whether a teacher likes or not, a teacher is making tremendous impact on a student. This is what we should be convinced about from the statistics. And if a teacher can influence 2,000 students in some way, in a positive way, it will make a great difference. So no other profession allows you to interact with students of that age and that many students of, impressionable age. That is why it is said that no nation can rise above the level of its teachers. Unless the teacher has the right attitude and the competence and is able to impart this attitude and competence to the student, the nation as a whole cannot rise. So in summary, students imbibe to an extent attitudes and skills of the teacher. And a teacher is influencing on average a couple of thousand students of impressionable age. So do teachers make a difference? Yes, teachers make a difference, either for good or for bad. Okay, this should be convincing enough for us to go further. Let me pause and ask Manju, is it going fine?
Yes, it's going fine, sir.
Okay. Now let's take some examples of teacher-student pairs. Dronacharya, who taught Arjuna and Eklavya. Can someone please respond why I have included Eklavya here?
Because he was not inside the class and one who is really sincerely interested.
Yeah, sorry, can you please repeat?
Student. He was not inside the class and due to mere curiosity, he wanted to listen to Dronacharya.
Yeah, so one more person can respond why Eklavya is included here.
He was learning in a virtual class.
Exactly. So distance learning, you can regard Eklavya as distance learning, which is what we are trying to do using modern technology. The teacher is at a distance, but if you are strongly motivated, that is how Eklavya was. Eklavya was strongly motivated to learn from the teacher. Therefore, even from a distance, by watching the teacher, he could pick up. Okay, so that is why I have included Eklavya here. So I am trying to give examples where the teacher made a profound impact on the student. Similarly, Chanakya and Chandragupta. Okay, this is in the area of administration politics. Ramakrishna Vivekananda, this is in the area of spirituality. Socrates and Plato, this is in philosophy. And then in physics, Thomson, Rutherford. Okay. Now there is one more thing I want to point out from this particular table. And that is the role of a teacher in the class and the role of a teacher outside class as a guide. As a research guide, for example, okay, the roles are not exactly identical. Can someone just tell me what are the differences in the role of a teacher who is teaching a course in a class? Okay, course as a part of a curriculum and a research guide. What are the differences between the roles of these two? In what way a guide has to do something differently than a teacher who is teaching a course? Anyone can respond?
Hello? The teacher is addressing the whole.
Yes, can you please repeat?
Anyways, you are muted.
The teacher is addressing the whole class.
Yes.
And discussing many topics. share his wisdom, knowledge, everything with the students, but the research guide is concentrating on a particular area.
Again muted.
But the guide is addressing only a limited number of researchers or the students sharing his experience with a particular area.
Okay.
Unlike the teacher.
Yes. Also, the activities of research guide and a classroom teacher, they are in fact quite different. For instance, research is a process of exploration where the student is working on an undefined, ill-defined problem, not a very clearly defined problem. So it is more of an exploratory activity, research. So guiding a student there is somewhat different from handling a classroom. This also we have to understand. Okay. So another thing is a research guide is dealing with the student one-on-one. Many times, on the other hand, a classroom teacher is dealing with a number of students and may not be giving individual attention. Okay. So when you give individual attention, you'll have to give proper feedback depending on the personality and abilities of the student. This individual feedback has great value in teaching learning process. Okay. So we need to discuss roles of teacher as a research guide and as a classroom teacher separately. In my session or in this particular course that we are talking about, FDP, Faculty Development Program, we are going to focus on a teacher who is teaching a course to a number of students in a classroom. Okay. So that is what I want to clarify. This is a very important point that we must remember. As a research guide, if you want to talk, we can discuss that during interactions if somebody is interested. But our focus will be on a teacher in a classroom. How do teachers make a difference? So far, what we have done is we have tried to convince that teachers indeed make a difference, and they make a difference to a large number of students, and therefore they play a significant role in raising the level of the nation. Now, how do teachers make a difference? I am quoting some research, okay, on this particular topic. The reference is given at the bottom. Teacher quality moderates genetic effects of early reading. Okay, this is an article that has come, which I reported their study on the reading skills of students. Okay. Now, it is interesting, what did their research show? They found that the following factors affect student learning. Genes, I am including another important parameter called family environment along with genes. It is not same as genes, but you know, it is something related to the family. So genes plus family environment, teacher quality, classmates, and resources. So these are the 5 factors which influence student learning. This is very important. Every teacher should know this. Why should a teacher know this? Because the level that a student can achieve does not depend on teacher alone. This is a very important point teacher should know. It depends on classmates, resources, genes, and the family environment of the student. This is a fact. If a teacher does not know this, what might happen is, if the teacher is very sensitive and very sincere, she might wonder why, in spite of my great effort, some students in my class are not learning. Okay. So it could be that the other factors are playing a role in those students who are not learning that well. Okay. But then, what is the relative contribution of teacher quality and other factors in student learning? Let us see what is that. That is the next statement. Genes might set the bar for learning potential. Teachers play a leading role in helping kids reach it. So whatever height a student can achieve is actually set by genes and family environment. This is a very important point. What it means therefore is, let us take Sachin Tendulkar's coach, Sachin Tendulkar, the cricketer, right? Now, will a student become Sachin Tendulkar? Will he achieve that much of skill in a particular area? It is not governed entirely by the teacher. Please understand this. Whether a person will become an Einstein, whether a person will become Vivekananda, it doesn't depend on the teacher alone. So what is it that sets the height? It is the genes in the person. This is important, genes and family environment. Now the teacher might therefore say, if it is not in my control, then what can I do? So the next statement is very important. But the height can only be achieved if the teacher is good. This is the important point. Teachers play a leading role in helping kids reach the height. Okay? Therefore, teacher is very important. That is why there are statements like teacher brings out the innate potential in a student. Right? These are all different ways of saying the same thing. The teacher brings out the innate potential in a student. Okay? When teacher quality is low, genetic variance is constricted. When teacher quality is high, genetic variance blooms. What does it mean? It means the following. Supposing there is a class of 50 students, and if the teacher is not good, let us say some course is being taught. Teacher is not good. What will happen? Most of the students will not learn anything. Okay, this is what is the meaning. If the teacher quality is low, independent of whether there is an innate ability decided by genes and family environment, etc., still, because the teacher quality is low, most of the students will not end up learning properly. On the other hand, when teacher quality is high, genetic variance blooms. This means if a very good teacher is teaching the course, at least some students in that class will get interested in the subject and perform well. This is the important point. So how can a teacher know whether I am doing well, I am a good quality person, right? My teaching ability is good. This is the indicator that at least some students in the class will get interested in my subject. Now, let me pause here and have some interaction. How can a teacher gauge whether a student has got interested in the subject? Can I have some responses? How can a teacher gauge whether students have got interested in the subject?
First and foremost, if he asks some questions or try to interact about the subject being taught.
Yes, very good point.
Assume that yeah.
Yes, that's a very good point. That one indicator of student interest is that on one's own, the student should ask some questions, maybe inside the class, maybe outside the class. There are some students who are shy of asking questions in the class, but they may come outside the class, they may ask. So we should remember, when we are talking about teachers here and teaching, we are not including only the activities in the class. We will clarify this further. A lot of activities teacher has to do outside the class to be a good teacher. Okay. So yes, one point is that the student should ask some questions, and quality of questions also will tell you how much the student has got interested. What other indicators can be there of good teaching? Can you please, not audible, can we? Let me now use this thing, and I will do stop presenting. I am able to now see Vishaya Vijaya. Is it Vijayan? Vishaya Vijayan, can I have some response from you? You can please unmute yourself. Can you please unmute yourself? Can you speak? Yeah, hello.
I can hear now.
Okay, you're having some difficulty. Let me try one more person. Yati Ajay. Yati Ajay. Can I get some response from Yati Ajay?
Hello, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, you are very much audible. Though I'm not able to see you.
Okay, thank you,
are
sir.
audible. Yeah.
Okay. So again, I think students having some doubts or regarding the topics that we have taught is
That
an
is one thing.
indicator, I think.
That is one indicator somebody has said. Can we have another indicator? How will a student teacher know that I am teaching well?
From the class, if the students are much more giving attention to you, then you can gauge from the class itself that students are interested. If they are
that is
not
true. Now the
giving
question
attention to
is,
you, I think.
Yeah. Now the question is, how do you know they are attentive? How do you know?
Keeping eye contact with you.
Right. Okay. So that is what I wanted to know. So specific. So eye contact. How are they looking at you? That can be one factor, right? Apart from whether they're asking questions. Then if in some college or some institution, attendance is not compulsory, right? But still students are attending classes. So number of students who are attending classes, that can be an indicator, right? Whether the teacher is doing well. Another indicator can be how many students are in the class right in the beginning, right? And how many students come late and so on. That can be one more indicator. Yet another indicator can be whichever is the first class in the morning. Suppose the classes start at 8 o'clock. And whenever you are handling a class at 8 o'clock, how many students are coming to the class, right? So like this, we can have several indicators, okay? Let me proceed further. Okay, Manju, am I clear? Is the slide clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
You can see it.
Yes. So let me summarize this. How do teachers make a difference? So genes might set the bar for learning potential. Teachers play a leading role in helping kids reach it. Here it is, kids is used because the research was on children, right? But we can generalize it to any student. So the teacher is very important in making a student achieve the innate potential that is set by a family environment, genes, and so on. That is a crucial role a teacher plays. Let us discuss about this point further using a story. How teacher affects student behavior. This is the story of Buddha and Angulimala. I will assume that you do not know the story because right now I don't have a way of asking you to raise your hands and tell me how many of you know the story and how many of you don't. The story goes like this. Look at the left hand side picture. Okay. So let me first tell you that who is that person who is trying to attack Buddha. A story about that person. The story goes like this, that as a small child, this person whose name became Angulimala later, right? So let us assign that name to the child right from beginning. So Angulimala was a very intelligent child. So he was so intelligent that teachers in his own village could not manage his questions and other things. So his well-wishers told him that, you want to learn, you please go to a famous teacher that is there in another village. He is the person who will be able to satisfy your curiosity and help you achieve your innate potential. So Angulimala went out of his village to that teacher and told him that in my village, my well-wishers have said that I should join your Gurukula, your institution, because only here I will get my satisfaction of learning. The teacher was very happy because in the students coming to him, this Angulimalas coming to him, he could sense his reputation. So he was very happy that my reputation has reached such far and wide that people are coming to join my institution from other villages. Therefore, he instantly took the child in his own Gurukula. Now, Angulimala turned out to be intelligent, most intelligent even among those intelligent students in the Gurukula of the teacher. So the teacher became even more fond of Angulimala. And then he started praising Angulimala about his abilities and so on to other students. Now what happened is this developed, there is a certain management issue here. Teacher did something that he should not have done, praising one student too much in front of other students. So that created a jealousy among other students about him. So once these other students decided to create a rift between the teacher and the Angulimala and the teacher. So what they did was they hid behind a tree, 2-3 of them, they hid behind a tree and they spoke among themselves when the teacher was passing by. They spoke as follows. One student told the other student, "This Angulimala is very intelligent, isn't it?" The other student responded, "Yes, yes, he's so intelligent that after growing up, his reputation will surpass the teacher. Then nobody will remember the teacher. They will only remember the student Angulimala and teacher will fade into oblivion." Now, when the teacher heard this, suddenly his insecurity came out. So far, he was praising Angulimala so much because he was very happy that a most intelligent student has come to him for learning. His mind didn't think ahead. These other students showed something to him that he was not anticipating, that the student will later on become more famous than him and then nobody will remember him. So the innate insecurity of the teacher came out. Because of this insecurity, suddenly his opinion of Angulimala changed. The same student who he was very fond of became some sort of a sore thorn for him. So the story goes and like this. It says that the teacher told Angulimala to get out of his Gurukula. He said that, "Angulimala, you have done such mistake that you don't deserve to be in my Gurukula." He didn't assign any reason because evidently he could not, because it was his insecurity that was playing the role and that was driving the student out. He could not tell it to the student. The student demanded, Angulimala demanded, "Sir, can you tell me, you have been always very fond of him. What is it that I have done for which you are throwing me out?" No, the teacher said, "You did such a bad thing that you don't deserve any explanation." And he was thrown out. Now he went to the outskirts of the village. Angulimala went to the outskirts of the village and then started thinking, okay, now how do I earn my living? I have been thrown out of a well-known institution. Anyway, he thought he will go and join households as servant and earn money. Unfortunately for him, what used to happen is whenever he used to go and join some household as a servant, in due course, the reputation would reach the head of the house that this boy has been thrown out by that well-known teacher. And then the people in the house will become suspicious. Oh, we don't want such a person who has been thrown out by a well-known person, right? Something wrong with him. And they would throw him out. So ultimately, he could not make his ends meet because nobody was willing to take him. Then his mind started working. It had got corrupted and polluted because he was feeling, for no fault of mine, I am being subjected to this kind of a harassment. So the negative tendencies in him became stronger, and then his mind started working in the direction of a person who developed a lot of negative tendencies. He decided that he can earn money by robbing people. And then this is how he started earning money. He would remain in the outskirts of the village. Anyone who was passing by, if he or she was alone, he would rob. And that is how he would get money. In addition, he had developed a hatred for the society, which had ill-treated him for no fault of his. That is how he saw it. So what he would do is, he would cut the finger of the person whom he was robbing, and he would string a garland of such fingers to keep count of how many such people he has robbed. And then that would give him satisfaction. That is how his name became Anguli Mala. That is a person who wears a garland of fingers. Now one day what happened is that it was Buddha who was passing by, and this Angulimala tried to rob Buddha. But Buddha was a different person. The story goes forward. I will not now lengthen the story further and tell you in short what happened. Some interaction happened between Angulimala and Buddha, and Angulimala realized his mistake, and the innate goodness in him surfaced again. Now that is what you see on the right hand side photo here, that Buddha made him realize his mistake, and Angulimala became the disciple of Buddha, and he became a monk. That is the story. Now, what does this story tell us? It tells us how teachers affect student behavior for good or for worse. Okay, bad or good. So a teacher can make a thief, a robber, a dacoit out of an innocent person, like the teacher in that Gurukula did. Or the teacher can make a good man out of a robber, a dacoit. Okay, so teacher can have such extreme influences on the student. This is what is the gist of the story. Let me pause here and see if people have any questions. So maybe I will stop presenting, and if people have any questions or comments at this point. Can I have Rajesh speak, please? Rajesh, can you unmute yourself and just respond?
Sir, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, sir. I'm hearing your words. I think this is the best base we have to start, because from Egalevia, I got some inspiration, because means directly participating to the course, he studied very well. Then this is the situation that Corona made. We have also to create more Egalevias. For that purpose, I think this venture will help.
Okay. Is there anything you want to say about the story? Did the story that we just now I told about the student and the teacher relation, how teacher can influence the student in good way or bad way, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Do you have any comment to make on that?
Hello.
Hello. Yes.
Hello.
Okay, let me go to another participant, Aparna, Dr. Aparna.
Hello, sir. Can you
Yes.
hear me?
Sure, yes, I can hear
I'm
you.
Dr. Aparna, please.
Yeah.
Yes. From this story, actually this...
Yeah, please unmute yourself. I think you have mute. Please unmute yourself.
Hello.
Yes.
Can you hear me, sir?
Sure, I can hear you.
Actually, from this story, actually, this is happening in all fields, I think. all fields means in arts especially, the teachers might be always afraid, not afraid, they are actually some of them, at least some of them might be not ready to teach all the essence of what they know, because they are afraid of the students will overcome them. Hello?
Yes, yes, please. Yeah, you are audible. No, again, please unmute yourself.
Okay, unmuted. Hello? I can't hear you, sir. Hello?
Sir, you are on mute.
Can you please unmute yourself, sir?
I have unmuted myself. I don't know. See, how do you, it is happening by itself. Now I am audible. Yes, I can see that I was muted. Yes. Yeah, Dr. Shinaja. Yes.
Sir, again you are muted, sir.
I don't know why is it happening.
Maybe because of the sound, someone is muting all of us. So we'll have to unmute ourselves and then see.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, fine. I should always have my eyes on that.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly, sir.
Yeah. Okay. So, Dr. Shinaja, can you? I don't know. Am I reaching you?
Yeah, we can hear you, sir. Maybe
Okay, but I
because
am
of
not
some,
able to hear Shinaja. I am not able to hear Shinaja.
maybe some connection error.
Connection error. Okay. Let me try Gitu Mol. Dr. Gitu Mol. Am I reaching Gitu Mol? Anisha. Am I able to reach Anisha? Just I am trying one more and then I will proceed further.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir. This is Sai. Am I audible, sir? I can't hear you. Audible?
Sir, you are muted.
I again muted. I unmuted myself.
Anisha.
Yes, Anisha. Yes.
Okay, so the story which you have just narrated, what I feel is if it's always very difficult to understand a student, what is exactly student is. First of all, and if we could understand in what way we can mold the student in a better way, that will be a great success for a teacher.
Okay.
So
Good.
first of all, we need to understand the student from his basics, from what he knows, what is his status, at what level he is actually standing. All these points matters a lot. Then only we can motivate the student, we can groom the student in a better way. So every teacher should try in better way to make him a better person, a better citizen. Likewise, that's what I believe.
Okay, good. So we can summarize by saying that a teacher should take satisfaction if the student grows more than the teacher. Okay, the teacher should be actually happy if the student has even outgrown the teacher. Okay, that is another point, and the teacher can influence. So as we can see that sometimes we may be getting very good students, but because of our actions, we might be removing their interest, and we might be turning and creating negative thoughts also in them. So teachers should always try to create positive thoughts in the student, and it is a great skill. We can discuss that at length, but meanwhile, let us proceed further. Now, let me come to the recipe.
Sir, again you are muted, sir.
Yeah. Is it okay now? Am I audible?
Now it's, yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And the slide is visible?
It's coming.
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay.
No.
Okay. 1 minute. 1 minute.
Yes.
Now, is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Shall I proceed further?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, recipe for effective and efficient teaching. Why am I calling it a recipe? As all of you know, that recipe.
Sir, you are muted.
Yeah. So, a recipe, Manju, shall I continue?
Yes, please, sir.
Yeah.
Please continue.
Okay. So, a recipe tells you in what sequence ingredients should be added in cooking. The sequence in which the ingredients are to be added is very important. It is not only the set of ingredients that you must put together to get a good taste, but unless you add the ingredients in a certain sequence, you won't get the taste. Okay, so this is the important thing. So I am now going to lay out a recipe for effective and efficient teaching. Now let me explain these two words, effective and efficient. Okay, so at this point again, I'm going to have a very short interaction. What is the meaning of effectiveness? Can some participant tell me what is the meaning of effectiveness? When can you say a teacher is effective?
When he can impart or when he can correctly communicate the concept to the student.
Exactly, correct. So we can put it in more clear terms. We can say that a teacher is effective if an idea that the teacher has in his or her own mind gets transferred to the student's mind in exactly the same way without any distortion. Okay, then you can say that the teacher is effective. An idea that the teacher has in his or her own mind is transferred to the student's mind in exactly the same form without any distortion. Okay, then you can say teacher is effective. How can a teacher test whether he or she is effective or not? How can a teacher test whether he or she is effective? Someone can please respond.
If the student correctly answers your questions.
Exactly. Or even if it, so it depends on what kind of question you have asked. For instance, you can describe a concept and then you can ask the student to describe the same concept, right? You can say, can you please tell me what did I say just now? Okay. So by answering a student to repeat what the teacher has said, this is one way you can try to check whether the student has understood, whether in the same way. And then you will try to correct the student. If there's many times you will find that you will say a few things and then when you ask the student to repeat what you have said, you find that the student is not telling exactly the same thing that you want the student to say. Then you will correct the student and you will say, no, this is not what I was saying, this is what I was saying, and so on, right? So this is how you will try to ensure effectiveness. Now let's take the next word, efficient. So what is the meaning of efficiency? Someone can respond.
Efficiency, I think it more relates to your competency in the subject.
Okay. Can you please introduce yourself? What is your name?
Sir, I am Dr. Seema Menon.
Okay. That is actually not exactly efficiency. In the sense, a better definition is required. Can we attempt a better definition of efficiency? What is meaning of efficiency?
In technical terms, efficiency means the output you see relative to whatever effort you put in.
Excellent. I think that is the definition of efficiency. We all know in science, engineering, and so on, it is output by input, right? Output by input. So how much effort are you putting in to achieve the effectiveness? This decides the efficiency. So an efficient teacher is one who can communicate a concept effectively to the students in a short time and using few words and so on, using less effort. So effort is also an important factor. How much effort am I putting in to achieve the goal? That is also important. So effectiveness and efficiency are the two things every teacher should aim at. So now the recipe I am going to describe, what it ensures is that a learning will happen in the student with less effort from the teacher's side. This is the important point here. So where does a teacher put effort? Say teacher may be putting effort in several areas, such as preparing for a course, right? Preparing. Now, what does preparation for a course or a subject mean? It means you will be reading some books. It means you will be preparing some assignment questions, right? You might be thinking about some examples to illustrate some concepts and so on. So all this goes into preparation. Okay. So let us see how with less effort you can achieve good learning among students. That is what we are talking about. The first step for effective and efficient teaching is a teacher should prepare for a course by designing questions for assignments and tutorials, and maybe even tests or quizzes. Often we think that a teacher should prepare by identifying a book and then reading up the material in it. Okay. Unfortunately, that is not what it is. Okay, many times what teachers do is they read up the class material before the class, one day before the class maybe, or even some teachers may be preparing during the weekends for the coming week. But preparing means basically reading up the material and thinking about it. Then they go to the class and deliver. Then about a day before the quiz, they will start thinking what questions to set, depending on what has been taught. Now, what I am trying to point out here is that is not an approach that is efficient and effective for ensuring learning in the student. The kind of questions you pose to the students in assignments, tutorials, tests, and so on govern the learning in the student to a large extent. This is a key point that all teachers should know. Research has been done on what are the factors which affect student learning, okay, in teaching. And it has been found that the quality of questions play a significant role in ensuring good student learning. Suppose there is a teacher who speaks well, who has good command over language, who has good command over the subject material, a good understanding of the subject material, but doesn't bother to set good questions for examinations and assignments. Then, in spite of the good communication ability of the teacher, the students will not learn. This is a very important point all teachers should know. Okay, on the other hand, to put it dramatically, if a teacher frames very good questions and somehow is able to motivate the students to answer those questions, then even if the teacher is not a good communicator, learning will happen in the student. Okay, this is the key point that I want to bring up here. In fact, it is because of this particular, we can say, finding in research on teaching learning process that problem-based learning okay, has acquired so much importance nowadays. People talk about problem-based learning. I am sure some teachers would have known about this particular phrase. Am I right? Problem-based learning. I would like to have at least a few responses on this.
Yes.
We have all come across problem-based learning. So what is the key thing in problem-based learning? So they are trying to frame a sufficiently big problem which involves thinking about a range of concepts, okay, to solve that problem, and the problem will have relevance to the practical world. So that is the characteristic of the problem. That is, the problem has relevance to the practical world. It is sufficiently large so that it involves understanding of a range of concepts. Okay, so they have found that if you frame a good problem and students learn through solving that problem, their learning will be better than simply listening to the teacher explaining ideas and concepts. That is the point. So every teacher should focus on quality of assignments, tutorials, and questions. In fact, the difference between the learning of students in IIT, in institution like an IIT, and an institution outside, right, and any other engineering college, one of the reasons for the difference in learning in the students and competence level of students is because of the quality of questions and tutorials, quality of questions in assignments, tutorials, and tests. That is one of the reasons why quality of learning is different. Okay, so all teachers should spend sufficient time in setting good questions. Setting good questions is not at all easy. It requires a lot of time to set good questions. Shortly, we're going to talk about what is the meaning of a good question. That we will talk about shortly. But here, I want to point out that a teacher need not spend time in setting all questions by himself or herself. What a teacher can do is identify a good textbook, and then at the end of each chapter, some questions are given there. From there, you identify what are the questions your student should be able to solve. Okay? And you can set some questions by yourself also. So you can pick up good questions from literature or textbooks and so on, and you can add a few of your own. But if you are preparing for any course, the first step is to make a list of all such questions which a student should be able to answer. Okay? Because once you have this list of questions, you can clearly decide what should be taught in the class. In the absence of such questions as goals, as objectives in front of you, a teacher may tend to talk about things which may not matter for student learning. Okay, so you may end up spending time describing things which actually which are not going to impact the student learning. So this makes your teaching very streamlined if you have a list of questions in the beginning itself. Okay, after you have decided the list of questions for your course, which can range anywhere between 40 to 50 questions for a course, right? Spread over several assignments or tutorials. The next step is to write learning outcomes. Reduce those questions to a few learning outcomes. What are learning outcomes? That is going to be the next session today and also tomorrow. Dr. Prasad will be handling this. Modern pedagogy lays a lot of stress on writing learning outcomes. Learning outcomes are different from syllabus. When you prescribe a syllabus, you are listing a set of topics that are going to be covered. Unfortunately, this listing doesn't tell the student to what depth a topic will be covered. For example, let me take a course that I teach, namely semiconductor devices. Now, in the syllabus for semiconductor devices, one of the topics that is covered is transistors. Now, it is not clear to the student what are all the things about the transistor that a teacher is going to cover. For example, there can be a course where the students are only required to explain the operation of a transistor without using equations. On the other hand, there can be another course which also lists transistor as a topic that is covered, but there students should not only be able to explain the operation of the transistor, but also calculate the current for a given voltage using some formulae. So if I only list transistor as a topic in a syllabus, you can clearly see that the student is not able to figure out to what depth the course will be covered or what are the skills that the student should acquire related to the transistor. In one course, the students are only required to explain the operation. In the other course, students are not only required to explain the operation, but also make calculations using formulae for current and voltages. Okay? Learning outcomes will tell clearly to the student the skills that the student should develop. Okay, so that is the difference between describing a course in terms of learning outcomes and merely a syllabus. So a learning outcome list for a course, semiconductor devices course, in one case will say at the end of my course, the student should be able to explain the operation of a transistor. Whereas in the other course, where the same transistor topic is listed, the teacher will say at the end of my course, the student should be able to explain the operation of a transistor, and also the student should be able to calculate the current for a given voltage. Okay, I want to pause here. Something else has come. It says your presentation ended, someone else has started sharing. Is my slide visible?
Yes,
No,
it
sir.
is visible.
Pardon?
No, it is not his presentation.
Yeah, should I?
Please share once again.
Yeah. Is it clear now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah. So this is what is a learning outcome approach, right? Of describing a course. So more about learning outcomes, Prasad will talk about. So after we have framed the learning outcomes to the course, then the teacher should go to the class, put the learning outcome on the board first, and then start teaching related to the learning outcome. For instance, in my course on semiconductor devices, I will go to the class and I will say, for today's discussion, at the end of my discussion in today's class, you should be able to explain the operation of a transistor. I will first write on the board or I'll put it on the slide, and then I will start explaining the operation of the transistor. Then at the end, I can check whether the students have understood that point. In other words, I can check whether the outcome has been achieved. I will ask the student to explain the operation of the transistor or write. Okay, and that way I can check whether my learning outcome has been achieved. I will go to the next class and I will say, in today's class, I will derive the current as a function of voltage in the form of a mathematical formula. At the end of my class, you should be able to derive this relation. That will be the learning outcome. And then I will start explaining I will start discussing the material related to that learning outcome. So this is what is meant by you should write learning outcomes for your course and organize your content around learning outcomes when you're teaching. Let me go to the other steps. See, each of these steps we'll discuss in detail in later sessions. I am only giving some ideas about this. Content delivery. Now, outside the class, I have designed questions properly. I have written learning outcomes, and I am now going to the class. Okay. What are the things that I should bother about? I should pay due attention to my body language and how I speak. This is the very crucial thing every teacher should be concerned about. Then I must use analogies in explanations. And PowerPoint versus Blackboard. This is another issue the teachers are bothered about, right? Can I use PowerPoint? Then somewhere I find material which says death by PowerPoint. If you use PowerPoint, students will not learn. You should use only Blackboard. Then somewhere else, when you use only Blackboard, people say, oh, these people have not at all advanced or grown with the technology developments, right? They are still using Blackboard. So how do we decide whether to use PowerPoint or Blackboard, how much of each to use? Now, these are the points we are going to discuss in my later sessions, okay, about content delivery. But these are the things you should bother about. As I said, right now I am just putting all the points related to the recipe. And with that, I'm going to end my session. Then each point will be discussed at length in later sessions, right? The fifth important thing in the recipe is that you should test and quiz students frequently and provide feedback on students' answers to the questions. Like research has shown that quality of questions decide learning to a large extent. Research on teaching learning has also shown another factor that governs student learning is the quality of feedback that teacher provides to the student on their performance on those questions. In fact, once when a well-known expert on pedagogy was asked, why do you think we are paying the teachers? The expert said, if there is one reason we are paying the teachers, it is for the quality of feedback they provide to the students. So this is very important. When we have corrected the quiz question papers and we distribute the quiz question papers, answer papers to the students, right? When we distribute their answers to the students, we must have a discussion on why they went wrong in questions. Okay, what are the reasons responsible for their mistakes? This point should be discussed and the student should be told that where are the lacunae in his or her learning and conceptual understanding based on their answers given in the exam. Now, in a large class, this can be difficult because how can you give individual attention? Still, what one could do is a teacher should find out all the various mistakes that have been committed by the students, and at least all those mistakes can be discussed in the class. Say, this particular question, some students are given this answer. What are the lacunae in this answer? And what lack of understanding on the part of the student does it reflect? And how the answer can be, how understanding can be corrected. So like this, after every quiz, teacher should spend time in giving feedback. And then some students who are not performing well, the teacher can call them aside and hold a separate session for them to give feedback to such students. Okay, this is very important to ensure good learning. Another point I want to clarify, when we say that we should test or quiz the students frequently, it doesn't mean that all these tests or quizzes should be taken into account while grading the student. Sometimes we can ask questions to the students for which if the student doesn't answer correctly, we will not penalize. Okay, so please understand here, when we said students should be quizzed or tested frequently, it doesn't mean that you have to assign marks for each of these quiz cases and then include those marks in the evaluation. In fact, if a teacher starts doing that, the student will be under great stress because constantly you will be penalizing the student for lack of understanding. That is not a good idea. So the idea in testing or quizzing is not only to grade the student, but also to make the student aware of the misunderstanding and misconceptions. Okay, so this is the point that we should remember. You can have tests and quizzes frequently, you can ask questions to the students, but don't evaluate every answer and include that evaluation in the grading. So some tests and quizzes will be graded and they will be included in the, tests will be evaluated and they will be included in grading, but you can conduct tests or quizzes or ask questions to the students in the class to test their understanding and make them aware of their misunderstandings. The next important thing is seek feedback on your teaching from students and colleagues. A teacher should be open to feedback from students and colleagues, how the course is going. So this point also I'm going to discuss at length, how we can collect feedback on our teaching from students and colleagues and how we can use the feedback to further improve our teaching. Finally, the final point in the recipe, a teacher must appear to the students as competent and caring. There are the two factors. Please remember this, competent and caring. Sometimes the teacher may be competent but the student somehow doesn't feel that the teacher is caring for the student. Some other time it can happen that teacher seems to be very friendly and so on, but still the teacher is not getting respect because the competence is lacking. So both these elements are equally important. How can a teacher appear to the student as caring? This is a very key point. I will pause here because I am towards the end of the session, but I will take some feedback from you. How do you think a teacher can appear to the student as caring? What are the steps teacher can take in order that the students feel that they are being cared for? And with that feedback, I will close my session after this interaction. And the first point in this important thing would be writing learning outcomes, right? So this point will be discussed by Edmana Prasad. How to design good questions and so on. A few things about this I will take up in my next session, which I am going to conduct tomorrow afternoon. Okay, so each point in this recipe will be discussed in detail in coming sessions. So again, can some people answer, how do you think a teacher can ensure that students feel that they are being cared for?
So one way might be to actively listen to what the students have to say, pay attention to what they have to say, and to reflect on their experiences.
Yeah, very nice point. Can you please tell your name?
I'm Dr. Preeti Nair.
Okay, yeah. So as you have rightly said, you must listen to the students' questions. Okay, that is one point. What other way can a teacher appear to the student as caring?
Sir, by showing empathy.
Yeah, so can you give some example where, empathy is required?
Empathy in understanding that they have their problems, which maybe we have not experienced, but to understand and show a kind of connection to them that, yes, we do understand what they feel.
Can you give some example from your experience, a specific example of how you showed empathy?
I have students who are from a very come from a very poor background. They have issues like some of them have to work. Some maybe in the morning they would have to go for some work and then come and attend classes to support their family. So when they come in a bit late, and sometimes some of them are not able to finish their assignment on time. So we ask them what it is, and we understand and give them a bit of more time, and and so I see that they finally end up finishing up the assignment rather than just saying that yes, it has to be at 1 o'clock. Yes, you've not. I don't give you marks because you've not submitted at 1. That kind of thing. So kind of empathy to understand them, their difficulties.
Yeah. So, however, one must be also strict about certain things. In case the student is lax, then of course we have to be, that also is there. So we have to have a combination of this concern as well as some strictness. Okay, that's a good point. Your name, please.
So I am Dr. Rama Lakshmi Pudwal from DB College, Talierapam.
Okay. So maybe we will, Dr. Manju, should we stop here?
In fact, the scheduled time is 11:30.
Yeah.
And it's already 11:30. And have you finished whatever you have prepared?
Yes. That was, my session is complete with this. Now,
okay,
as I said, later sessions we will elaborate each point on this recipe.
Okay, sir. So shall we ask for some questions or interactions with you?
Yeah, if they have anything, they can ask. And also you please tell them about the feedback.
Yeah. So dear participants, hello participants, please. Hello.
Hello. Yes, Manju. Can hear.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, participants. Please interact with the speaker if you have any questions. It's time for interaction. And kindly,
Hello.
fill.
Please introduce yourself. Just tell your name and what are you teaching, and then go on with your question or comment. Whatever.
Hello, sir.
Yes, please.
Sir, can you hear me? I'm Vijesh. I'm Vijesh from Christian College.
Yeah.
Hello,
please go on.
You can talk.
Sir, I want to know about, you told about how a teacher can make changes in a student. So how that we can apply in this online scenario? That means a multiple number of students, we are going to take classes to a number of students online. So how the same thing that we, till now we employed all this stuff in the classroom. So how we can employ this in the online platform? Or how to make changes in students?
Yes. It is a very nice question. So, what I can say is the following. What I have seen is, if you have recorded video lectures, okay, if you have recorded video lectures, you are able to make more impact on the student than, let us say, a lecture like what I'm doing now. Okay. If the same thing, I would have done video recording in a proper studio. Just to give you some example, NPTEL video lectures are available on, that video lectures are available on the internet, right? You must have seen some of them.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Videos.
So those kind of recorded video lectures have more impact.
Okay.
So that is one thing one could try. Then one should record a lecture, okay? And instead of conducting a live session, you can record and then send it to the student, and then ask the student to go through it and then ask questions later on, right? Now, one advantage of this recorded lecture is the following. The student can pause anywhere at his or her convenience, right? Each student can pause at his or her convenience, right? Some student may not understand concept 1. Some other students, on the other hand, may not concept 2. So they can proceed at their own pace. And then they can put all the questions down, and then you can have a question answer session. So this recorded videos followed by a question answer session can be more effective than a live session like this.
So, sir, what you're saying is we have to record as we are taking the class in a classroom, or should screen sharing, or should be a physical presence?
Actually, recording as though you are in a classroom, that is the best. Now, every institution may not have such a facility. Okay. Every institution may not have such a facility. I understand. Then the next best is record the way we are doing right now. Okay.
Okay.
So you can, there is a way of attaching the audio to the PowerPoint.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah. So you can do that. So what I'm trying to say is, sometimes these live online sessions, instead of that, this recorded, you can have PowerPoint slides on which you can record, or you can even use a tablet and you can write and so on, and then speak and record. And this recorded lecture, you give it to the student.
Yeah, we can record and upload on YouTube and send the link to students. That will be better, okay?
Yeah, that will be better. Now, about one more thing that people are pointing out is, sometimes there is a bandwidth issue because internet connectivity is not good for many people. Okay. So what they are saying is, so you don't record continuously for 50 minutes. You record for maybe 5 to 7 minutes. 5 to 7 minutes, a bit.
Small modules.
Small. 5 to 7 minutes you record. And like that, you record bits like that, because what happens is then they can download those bits easily. instead of downloading a full lecture of 50 minutes, that because that requires a lot of this thing. So these kind of things have to be used for making things easy. But summary is listening to a recorded lecture for online cases is better than a live session. Sometimes live session can be for interaction, question answers, that is okay.
Yes. And in the live session there are chances of technical fault also that may distract the students, right sir?
Yeah, that may distract the students. So those difficulties are there. That is why recorded things are always considered good.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, but you should have interaction, that is there, because question answers you have to have. No, what I have seen, sometimes even question answers we need not have a audio and so on. Even a group can be formed, e-group, and people can post their doubts.
Okay, yes.
On that e-group, and then some other student can also answer. People do answer. I have seen that.
Yeah, their friends can answer or anybody. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right, sir.
Yeah. So that kind of a thing should be set up. So these things can be used. These methods can be used.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also, just one more thing I want to say, that a short phone call conversation between every student and the teacher, okay, that adds a personal touch. Now supposing you have a class of 50, how can you do it? But we are not saying you should do on one day, right? Your course goes on for 40 lectures, so maybe each day you can speak to 2 students on phone. That way you can, so every student will feel some personal connection, something like that.
That's for the 7 component you discussed now, right, sir? Caring.
Yes, caring, exactly. That caring part. Correct.
Okay.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah.
Can you please stop sharing the slides so that we can see you?
Sure. Yes.
Participants, if there is any more questions, you can please raise.
Sir, may I?
Yeah, please introduce yourself and then.
My name is Hari. I'm from Sri Shankara College, Kaladi.
Okay.
Sir, I think the recipe which you have described here may vary or change according to the subject.
Sorry?
Because the recipe of effective and efficient teaching you have described here may vary or change according to the subject, according to the framework of the particular subject. Because in my early college days, we were fascinated and addicted to classes of some teachers just because of their knowledge, vocabulary, and the way of presentation.
Okay.
What do you think about that, sir?
See, this is a good point you have raised. People have done some research on this. So what happens is, supposing, you look at it like this. Let's take a 1-hour talk. Supposing a person comes and speaks very well. Okay. People clap. Let us say at the end, everybody claps. Right?
Yeah, right.
Now, this is one kind of impact. But what research on teaching learning says is, based on this kind of response, where students are clapping. Sorry, there is some interruption. So based on this kind of response, you cannot test learning. You have to ask some questions to the students and see whether they are able to answer those questions which are based on the talk. So when you use those parameters, which are more hard, right? Okay, there are two, let me repeat it in a different way. Let us say you have delivered a lecture, you ask the students their feeling of how good the lecture was. And students say, yeah, it was very good. I think we understood everything. Based on that, can you assign marks to the students and say, okay, on that lecture, each student will get, every student says they have understood well, so we'll give them 10 out of 10. No, you will not agree. What you will say is, I will ask some questions and I will check whether they have understood or not. Just because the student is claiming that he has understood doesn't necessarily mean the student has understood. See, this is important point in teaching learning. All of us, I'm sure we agree, right? Just because I say things were clear to me, that cannot be used to give me marks. If you want to decide, if you want to evaluate me, you will ask me some questions and you will check whether I am able to answer the questions well. So that is the point I am trying to say. In the recipe that I have discussed, tries to ensure learning at that level. That is, if the student faces a problem in real life, whether he or she is able to solve, that is the indicator of learning. Not whether the student says the teacher has been good or not. The student will say teacher is good. I'm not saying student may say teacher is not good. But just because the student says teacher is good, that doesn't, it's not an indicator that the student has learned. Only whether the student can solve a problem based on that topic can you say that the student has learned. So the recipe is geared towards that. Am I clear?
Yes, sure.
So good speaking and all is important, but that alone is not sufficient.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Are there any more participants to put forth the questions?
Sir, may I make an announcement?
Sure.
Sir, can I make an announcement? Dear participants, please do not forget to fill in the feedback come attendance form, which is shared as a Google link in the chat box. Kindly fill in, all of you, please fill that Google form. Thank you. Any more questions?
Manju, I
Sir,
don't think there are any questions.
Okay, then I have a question, sir.
Yeah.
One of the greatest challenge we face in our class, because I am a physics teacher, and normally 45 to 50 students are there in one class, and among these maybe 10 or 5 will be really interested to learn physics. So this is a very big challenge which needs much attention. So shall we not modify the admission procedure so that only those who have aptitude comes in to learn a particular subject? Is it not very important? Because we are spoiling them by teaching them something which is not interesting to them.
Yeah, so you are suggesting that only those students be admitted who have aptitude. Is that what you are saying?
Yes, sir, exactly.
Yes, so that has to do with the selection process for that particular program, right? Selecting students. Am I right? Yes. That is what you are saying.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Yeah, so there are two ways you can see. See, one way, in fact, what you can say is that it has to the school education, right? So the school education, unfortunately, what has happened is, even though the document, as I quoted, one of the policy documents on education, that no nation can rise above the level of its teachers is really important, but somehow the quality of teachers at the school level, there is a problem. One of the reasons for this, what you are facing or what we face, is this quality of teachers at the school level. So it is a problem that has to be tackled on a large scale. Quality of students, quality of teachers at the school level, unless we change, no matter what you do with the selection process, it may not.
Yeah, to an I agree to an extent, sir, because many of students are getting admitted based on the marks they score in schools, and most of them have scored above 90% for mathematics, physics, and all, but exactly, they don't know even basic calculus or anything. So this should come from the policy of government itself, right? Because
no, that is there. Plus, see what happens is, plus as I said, now if I link your question to what I discussed right in the beginning, when I said the factors which affect student learning are genes, that is what the way the composition when you are born with, then family environment, okay, then resources and peer group. These are the factors other than the teacher. So these factors are all there, and wherever we can influence, we can try to. For instance, we may have to fill up some gaps left behind by school teachers. I am saying, let us say you take the physics. Somehow we have to tell the students how physics is important for them, right? If we show some practical experiments, I remember when I underwent physics courses in IIT Madras, sometimes they used to start every important topic with an experiment, live experiment. Okay, so momentum, for example, you're teaching concept of momentum, then some live experiment about how momentum is important in life and so on. So by doing such things, we can try to motivate the students to learn, thinking that these ideas will become important later. So those.
The message is clear, sir, but one student in my class, he told me once that he wanted to learn history, but he didn't get admission there and he was forced to join physics. Such problems are there.
No, so for such problems, I think what should be done, you have raised an important point. Such problems, that is why I'm saying that school level we have to tackle. School level, teachers should communicate to the students that all areas are important and all areas are interesting, and they are satisfying if you pursue them. That is why at the school and at the counseling to the parents. So this is important, which means it applies to us also. Our own children, if they want to pursue history, we should not demotivate them. So it even falls on us, our own children. We should allow them to pursue what they want.
But in this educational scenario, the students are not having that freedom to select, to opt.
May I know, you please introduce your name and.
Sir, I am Dr. Mini KD from Sri Shankara College, Kaladi.
Yeah, I'm able to see you. Okay.
So here the students are not having that liberty, that freedom to choose their subject. We are having a preset pattern. If you are opting physics, to opt
maybe people should
and math. They are not having that freedom. If the physics student is having interest in selecting history, here there is no such option. What is the reason? That education scenario should change, no, sir?
No, see, many times, I will tell you, many times I have seen my experience, I'm telling you, if you give freedom to the students, they don't know which course to take. Sometimes they have problem. You can give freedom, but then that increases the problem for the student. So what the student says is exactly what I should do. So that is also what I have seen. We should have a combination of compulsory courses and elective courses.
May I request? May I ask questions to?
Okay, sir.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yes. So we can also have interaction in later sessions because we are not. We have to come back again. Yeah, please.
Hello, please talk. One more question is allowed. Please talk.
Hello.
Hello. Can I speak?
Sure. Please introduce yourself.
Yeah, I'm Emmanuel Thomas from St. Thomas College, Thrissur. It's just a comment based on the previous discussions which we had.
Hello.
I think that teachers should not approach students with that bias, thinking that they may not be able to study or they do not have interest. I think we have to be open, and of course, students might have different their degree of interest in different subjects will be different, and given our system, they may not be able to choose the subject which they want to study. But still, given the fact that an undergraduate degree or an MSc or MA program which we offer in our colleges are basic degrees basically. So given that, I think it should not be a big problem. So that is where the efficiency and effectiveness of teacher becomes more important. And of course, if a student has other interests, I think we should encourage them to
We
pursue
have been
those interests
shifted
parallel.
we have
So
been
if a
forced.
student who is learning physics has an interest in say music, we can encourage that student to pursue that passion, that interest parallelly, so that the student can get back to that later at a stage when the system or when his environment permits him. I think instead of we carrying a feeling that the problem is with the students, I think we have to be more open with that. I think I conveyed what I wanted to say.
Sure. So in fact, I will tell you, the impact of a good explanation is so much. See, for example, supposing I am not explaining something very well, and I see the student is not interested, I will conclude, no, the student is not interested. How do I know that actually my explanation is not sufficiently clear? Exactly. Yes, that is why we are going to talk about this feedback and all that. So maybe that is why what I'm saying, we can reserve some questions later on also as we discuss topics, right? We'll get answers to some questions.
Yes, sure.
So what we are trying to say now is, right now what we are trying to say is, let us try to improve our end as a teacher.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah, please speak.
Hello, sir. Myself, I am Dr. Animal K.
Okay.
I am Dr. Animal K. Department of Economics, Sri Shankara College, Kaladi.
Okay.
Hello.
Yeah. Please
Sir,
go on.
due to our present situation, we have forced to shift our face-to-face learning to online learning.
Okay.
So based on your experience, what are the best ways to enhance students' learning via online teaching? Is there any alternative method to assess students' understanding?
No, so that is what, in fact, just now I answered that question in the beginning, that for online, best is recorded video lectures. If not that, the next thing is recorded PowerPoint with audio superimposed, right? Those are the best options. That is, instead of live classes for teaching everything, only interactions can be kept live, like what we are doing now, and the lecture can be given in the recorded form. That is the best option for online. That is what I have said. If it can be video, but everybody may not have that video facility. That is fine. At least you can superimpose the audio on the PowerPoint slide, and then you can do that. Recorded things are better, so that the student can download at their pace, and then listen to it also at their pace, and so on. This is the key point for online.
Okay, sir. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.